During wartime, it is essential to be able to communicate with your allies without the other side knowing. Machines like the Enigma machine could be used in one's advantage to send messages, but they could also be used to spy on messages. This is what the Allied forces of World War II did. Breaking the Enigma code enabled the Allies to detect and decode enemy plans and communications, to change the direction of World War II, and help them defeat the Nazis. The original Enigma machine was created and patented in 1918 by Arthur Scherbius. The machine only really started to be used in 1923 for commercial purposes. The machine originally printed out paper with words on it just like a typewriter would do. Issues with the print wheel and the type bars arose, so Scherbius developed a different machine that would display light on a lamp panel to show the letters. In 1926, the German army showed an interest in the machine and requested changes to the commercial Enigma, and a new exclusive Enigma machine to the German army was made. The machine was developed by 1932 and was called Enigma I. The German army started preparing for war, so many Enigma I machines were produced. The Enigma machine has a rotor system that randomizes the 26 letters of the alphabet. Every time a letter was pressed, a substitute letter would appear. A letter could not have the same letter substitute twice in a row, so this is what made the Germans think the code was unbreakable. The codebreakers eventually figured out a flaw though. One letter could not become itself. This flaw helped them to decode the machine's messages. While Germans were preparing for war, a Polish cipher bureau started an attempt to break the Enigma cipher. After receiving intelligence information from a French spy, the Polish cipher bureau began to research the commercial Enigma machine. 3 mathematicians from the University of Potsdam were recruited. Their names were Marian Rejewski, Jerzy Radzicki, and Henryk Zygalski. Henryk Zygalski created an apparatus which comprised of 26 perforated sheets of paper called Zygalski sheets, which he used to decrypt messages by hand. Marian Rejewski deduced the internal wiring of the Enigma machine and built the Polish bomba. In 1933, the Polish Cipher Bureau obtained information of the Enigma machine operating procedures used by the German army. This helped the Poles build a replica of the German Enigma I machine. From 1933 on, the Poles intercepted and decrypted German messages, and after an increase in radio traffic, they concluded that the war was coming. In July 1939, a meeting between the Polish, French, and British was held. During that meeting, the Polish revealed their project. The French and British were each given a replica of the Enigma I machine and learned all the accumulated knowledge from the Poles. Immediately after the meeting, the Polish Cipher Bureau destroyed all equipment, pictures, documents, and other evidence of their work. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and 2 days later, Great Britain and France declared war on Germany. Bletchley Park is an estate in the town of Bletchley that would become home of the British Government Code and Cipher School. The location was chosen because it had railroad connections to London, Cambridge, and Oxford. The first people who were recruited and arrived at Bletchley Park were mathematicians, professional codebreakers, chess players, and people with good organizational skills. At the beginning of the war, there were only 150 staff. By the end of the war, there were nearly 10,000 people working at Bletchley Park. The various teams worked on different projects in units called huts. Hut 8 was the unit assigned to the code breaking of the German naval messages. The leader of the Hut 8 team was a brilliant mathematician named Alan Turing. The teams at Bletchley Park were originally decoding intercepted Enigma messages by hand, but as the rate of messaging increased during the war, Alan Turing started to look for new solutions. Using the information from the Poles, Turing developed the Turing bomb. The Turing bomb replicated the action of multiple Enigma machines wired together. It could decode multiple Enigma messages at the same time. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill recognized the significance of work at Bletchley Park and designated the project as Top Secret Ultra, also known as Ultra. In the beginning of the war, Ultra was able to read most of the German Army and Air Force messages. Naval messages were harder to decrypt because the procedures were more complicated. In May 1942, a German U-boat was captured along with its codebooks from the German Navy. This helped Turing to figure out the naval messaging procedures and the additional wiring. On February 2, 1942, the German naval forces introduced a new model of the Enigma machine called Enigma M4. This caused confusion for the codebreakers. Suddenly, they were not able to read the German naval communications. The blackout lasted months, but on October 30th, 1942, the new codebooks for Enigma M4 were obtained by the British from a sinking German U-boat. These books helped Turing to figure out the new naval procedures and the modified wiring. The ability of Allied forces to intercept and decode Enigma messages gave them an advantage in war and battle strategies, helped them to avoid German attacks, and helped them obtain intelligence on plans and tactics the German and German allies used. The codebreakers helped on the land, sea, and in the air. Like in the Battle of the Atlantic, where the British Admiralty tracked the U-boats, which reduced the German Navy's ability to sink their vital supply ships. In the Battle of Matapan, Bletchley Park's break-ins into the Italian naval system resulted in Royal Navy victory. Bletchley Park's break-ins into the German Air Force system and their ability to decrypt messages helped the Allied forces to predict the locations of the German Air Force bombers. When the German Secret Service intelligence messages were decoded, this helped the British Air Force to confuse Germans over where they are going to land. Alan Turing's bomb went on to be the first blueprint for the first electronic numerical integrator, also known as the computer. His paper on computable numbers became the foundation for computer science. Turing's knowledge and technology is still used today and has made an impact in the way we live. Breaking the Enigma code helped the Allied forces to decrypt and listen in on enemy plans. The work of the codebreakers at Bletchley Park is believed to have shortened the war by 2 years, saving millions of lives.